I did this with a stranger in a bar while my husband was away. Have you ever done something so out of character, so utterly foreign to who you thought you were, that afterward you could barely recognize the person in the mirror? That night started like any other Thursday. My husband was away on business, again, and I had every intention of staying home with a glass of wine, a face mask, and reruns of Grey's Anatomy. But something tugged at me, something I couldn't name. Restlessness, loneliness, curiosity, maybe all three. It was never about the man. It was never even really about the sex. It was about being seen, for the first time in what felt like years. It was about hearing my own laughter bounce off the walls of a place where no one knew my name. A place where I didn't have to be someone's wife. My name is Eliza. I'm 36, a freelance graphic designer working from a cozy, quiet home in the suburbs of Philadelphia. My husband, Daniel, is 39, an architect with a thriving firm and a schedule so packed he often jokes that he needs an assistant just to keep track of his assistants. We met in our 20s. He wore mismatched socks and quoted Vonnegut. I was enchanted. He made me laugh. He made me feel like the only person in the room. And for a while he was my person, my best friend, my safe harbor. But marriage has a way of quietly reshaping itself when no one's looking. What started as playful teasing turned into distracted grunts over dinner. Our conversations became about groceries, deadlines, and why the dishwasher still wasn't emptied. There were no dramatic fights, no betrayals, just a steady, invisible erosion. Daniel traveled more frequently in recent years. At first, I missed him desperately during those trips. Then gradually I started dreading his returns. The silence between us had become louder than anything we said aloud. So when he left for Chicago that week, I felt the old familiar sigh of relief, like I could finally exhale. That Thursday night, the house was unbearably quiet. I poured myself a glass of Pinot, but it tasted like cardboard. The couch felt too soft. The silence pressed on my chest like weight. I found myself Googling bars nearby. Somewhere I'd never been. Somewhere no one would know me. The Velvet Lantern popped up. Low lighting. Downtown. It sounded like stepping into someone else's life for a night. The moment I stepped inside, it felt like I had crossed into another version of my life. The bar was all deep mahogany and flickering candlelight, the smell of citrus and bourbon hanging in the air. A jazz trio played in the corner, their music a slow hum in my chest. I took a seat near the back and ordered an old-fashioned, something Daniel always ordered but I never liked. That night it tasted like adventure. Or maybe rebellion. He noticed me before I noticed him. He was sitting 2 tables away, reading a paperback novel, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. A rare book for a man to read alone in a bar, I thought. I must have stared too long because he looked up and smiled. Not a cocky, practiced smile. Just real. Soft around the edges. You like the book? He asked. It's one of my favorites, I replied. Beautiful and twisted. He chuckled. Like most worthwhile things. His name was Nathan. Early 40s. Divorced. A history professor at a nearby college. He looked like someone who carried stories in his pockets. Someone who'd survived things and come out the other side a little wiser, a little sadder. Talk. About books, music, how much we both hated networking events. He asked about me, and I found myself answering in fragments, editing details without quite lying. I didn't mention Daniel. Instead I said things like, I work from home mostly, and I haven't been out like this in a long time. Both true. Both incomplete. Tell me something you've never told anyone, he said at one point, half teasing, half serious. I don't know why I answered. Maybe it was the way his eyes held mine. Or maybe it was the jazz, the bourbon, the ache. Sometimes I feel invisible in my own life. He didn't respond right away. Just looked at me for a long moment. I think a lot of people do, he said finally. But not tonight. When he reached across the table and brushed my hand with his fingers, I didn't pull away. My breath caught. My stomach flipped. I was at a crossroads, and I knew it. But the line between longing and action is thinner than people think. We left the bar just after midnight. The streets were slick with rain, the city washed clean and new. Nathan walked me to my car, both of us quiet now, like the night itself was listening. I turned to him, keys in hand, heart in my throat. "This is crazy," I said. "I know," he said softly. "I'm married." I figured. His honesty startled me. "You don't care?" "Yes." He shrugged. "I don't know you well enough to judge. And I don't think this is about me." I should have gotten into my car, driven home, pretended this night never happened. Instead, I kissed him. It was hesitant at first, like we were both waiting for the world to stop us. But when it didn't, everything else faded. My name, my past, my guilt, even Daniel. There was only the rain, the taste of bourbon, and a stranger who saw me. We went to his place. A modest brownstone filled with books and old maps. Smelled like cedar and something warm like cloves. He kissed me like he meant it. Touched me like he was discovering something sacred. And I let him. It wasn't lust that drove me. It was hunger, for attention, for intimacy, for validation. For someone to look at me and not see a chore list or a routine. When it was over, we lay side by side, staring at the ceiling. The silence between us felt different. Gentle, not accusatory. "I'm not proud of this," I said. "I wouldn't expect you to be." I turned to face him. "You'll forget me by next week." He nodded. "Probably." And I knew I'd remember him far longer than I should. I drove home as dawn broke, the sky tinged with soft pink and gold. The house was just as I'd left it, still, sterile, waiting. I showered, scrubbed every part of myself until the water ran cold. I fed the cat. Changed the sheets. That evening, Daniel called from his hotel. "How's everything?" he asked, voice full of cheerful distance. "Fine," I said, staring at the sunset through the kitchen window. "Quiet. I'll be home Saturday. Can't wait to see you." "You too." I hung up and stood there, phone still in hand, as the weight of it all settled on me. I haven't told Daniel. Not because I want to keep lying, but because I don't know what the truth would fix. That night didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of quiet unraveling. From days where our eyes didn't meet and weeks where we didn't touch. But I also know this. Cheating didn't solve anything. It didn't fill the emptiness. It only made it harder to ignore. Since that night, I've tried to reconnect with Daniel. I initiate more. I ask questions I stopped asking years ago. Sometimes he responds. Sometimes he doesn't notice. Sometimes I wonder if he feels the same loneliness but doesn't have the words for it. There are moments, small ones, when I think we could find our way back. But there are others when I stare across the table at him and feel like I'm having dinner with a stranger. I don't know what happens next. I'm not looking for a second affair. I'm not even sure I want a divorce. What I want, what I'm still learning how to want, is truth. With him. With myself.